Deputy Secretary, this committee, I believe, has grown tired of me saying that I represent more Jones Act jobs than any other member in this body. 28,000 men and women are employed in my district because of the Jones Act. Considering this information, do you find it ironic that I also represent the destination of more SPR releases transported on foreign flag vessels than any other member in the country? In other words, all of the oil released, or a vast majority of the oil that is released out of the strategic reserve, is then shipped to my district, but not by American flag vessels, while at the same time I represent more mariners than any other member.
It is, I would classify it as an opportunity. We share the strong belief that the Jones Act both protects U.S. jobs and protects U.S. national interests. And the purpose of reversing what had previously been a blanket waiver in all cases on releases and going on a case-by-case basis was to provide whatever opportunities we possibly could for Jones Act vessels and their U.S. crews to participate. And we think we clearly learned lessons from this release. Should there be another one in the future, sir, we believe that a close partnership with industry and better real-time information will allow us to maximize the Jones Act participation.
Are you saying that the lessons that were learned move you so that if we have another release, that the process that you would use would be more transparent and more applicable to sticking to the preamble of the Jones Act?
We, first in terms of transparency, we posted the vessel availability on the MARAD website as a way to make sure we got the word out. I think from a policy point of view, the most important decision was made immediately, which was, unlike previous administrations, not to grant a blanket waiver and just waive the Jones Act, but instead to focus on opportunities to get Jones Act vessels and crews involved. We think that we agree with both the law, the letter, and the spirit of the Jones Act in the sense that it exists for a reason, and that reason is that it's in the vital interests of the United States to have a strong U.S. flag fleet, and even more important than the vessels themselves in some ways, the crews, the U.S. crews.
So are you saying that you believe that you all went to through every possible scenario and worked diligently to uphold the preamble of the Jones Act in the process that y'all used in granting these waivers? I mean, do you feel that today, or do you feel that moving forward you can do a better job of ensuring that American flag vessels have an opportunity to carry this off? Because it bothers me that while mariners that I represent sit on the dock, they get to watch a foreign flag vessel pass their dock with oil, with oil paid for by their hard-earned tax dollars, and that oil is being transported by foreign flag vessels. And I'm just trying to ensure that me and you have an understanding, and that what you're telling this committee is that, look, maybe we didn't do as good of a job as we could, or maybe you feel like you have. And that's what I'm trying to understand. Do you think that you did, that you can take some steps in the future that would further strengthen the ability of U.S. flag vessels to have a seat at this table?
The short answer is yes. We believe there clearly are steps that we can take in partnership with industry to do a better job. As with anything else, we should be learning from experience, and this was the first time that anyone tried to get the Jones Act fleet involved in an SPR release.
Well, and let me just tell you, I appreciate the fact that you recognize that you can do a better job. Not many people come before us and admit, and I think that's very noble of you. I want you to know that, and I hope that you live up to that word, and that the next time we do a better job of getting more U.S. flag vessels involved.
Sir, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't realize I can do a better job, and we should all be learning from it. I very much look forward to working with you going forward should there be another release. And the nature of the release is it's quick and with no warning so that it can impact markets. that puts a premium on doing the work up front, very collaboratively. We've had some very good collaborative work with our colleagues at the Department of Energy and the Department of Homeland Security and others in both lessons learned and should there be another release, how it can be done better. Just as we're doing with trying not to grant Buy America waivers on the manufacturing side, just as we're doing with the Exim Bank agreement that we have where they're using U.S. vessels and we're not in the same way before. And just as we're doing with the Department of Energy, who is not necessarily using U.S. flagships for project cargo shipments, and they are now, we see every one of these as an opportunity, even if it's at the margins. These margins add up to strengthen U.S. jobs and to get maximum U.S. employment for the Jones Act that we need in case of emergency.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to try to clarify an answer that the Deputy Secretary gave to Mr. Cummings a while ago when he mentioned, or I heard him say that DOE set the 500,000 barrel limit, or you mentioned that the 500,000 barrel limit came from DOE.
It's in the DOE prospectus for sale of the SPR release.
Well, I'm holding the, Mr. Chairman, I'm holding the notice of sale from, I believe, DOE, which says that the minimum delivery lot sizes are 100,000 barrels for pipeline and 300,000 barrels for vessels. Now, nowhere in this notice do I see 500,000. In fact, we got to 500,000 because someone slipped information to the industry telling them that if they went to 500,000, they would get the waivers. Now, me and you just had a discussion about how we move forward in helping our mariners in this country. And the way we help them is by making sure that when DOE says 300,000 barrels, because they know that we can use U.S. flag vessels to move that cargo at this volume, that we try to adhere to it. So I just wanted to correct the record, Mr. Chairman, in that the Deputy Secretary said it was DOE that issued a 500,000 barrel limit, and I think that would you like to retract that?
No, there's two separate things here, Mr. Landry. One is the minimum bid amount that bidders for the oil can bid on, and that's 500,000 barrels.
No, that's 300,000.
The delivery of the product was 300,000 barrels. It was originally, I would point out, 350,000 barrels, and we prevailed upon DHS or DOE to lower that because we knew there were two tankers that could carry up to 330,000 barrels. So you're absolutely right about the delivery size at 300,000, and we specifically asked them to lower it from 350, which it originally was, to 300, so that two U.S. tankers that we thought were available at the time could get that business.
Did they get the business?
They did not. Of the two tankers, one was under contract in Brazil, and the other one was either in or headed to dry dock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My friend Mr. Harris has it right on the point. You know, at my house, my wife and I sit down some rules for my 7-year-old, and when he doesn't want to follow them, he can give me every excuse in the world why he shouldn't have to follow that rule. It kind of sounds like where we're at in this issue. You know, it's like it's a missed opportunity by this agency. So if you break it down in simplistic terms, like Mr. Harris said, there was no immediate rush. These refineries were not running out of oil. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the immediate indication by the administration to the markets that it was going to make available 30 million barrels of oil was in their mind was supposed to have an effect on the market to lower the price at the pump. That was the excuse, right? But then those refineries are not short of oil. They basically just stopped a couple of some foreign oil from coming into the refinery at that time. Said, wait a minute, we don't need that shipment right now. Those tankers can sit off in the Gulf of Mexico, anchor down, and wait till we get this 30 million barrels. Of course, what we know is that it's voodoo economics, Mr. Harris. I mean, the whole thing was a scam, all right, to try to tell American people that this administration was doing something to lower the price at the pump. When it's real easy to do, you just got to put the bit in the ground down in the Gulf of Mexico. And so we could have easily just said, follow the law, and allowed American workers to transport that oil over a 30, 60, 90, 100-day period of time, than to try to shove all that oil into those refineries at that particular time, because once they did that, those refineries simply picked up the phone and said, hey, Saudi Arabia, send your oil back now, because we got all the American oil we need, and now you can bring your tankers in. Am I missing something?
No, I don't think so, Mr. Landry. I think that you've described it perfectly.
So really, the agency just missed an opportunity to put Americans to work. So what we hear out of this administration and out of these agencies is how jobs, American jobs, are so important to them, and how their main goal is to create American jobs. And when they had an opportunity to create or preserve American jobs, they said no. Is that a correct statement?
That certainly was the effect of the actions taken by the agencies last summer.
And so to simply solve this problem, it just needs to be said that if we're going to release the strategic oil out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, barring an emergency tantamount to refineries actually running out of crude, that there is really no excuse not to use American flag vessels.
In our view, sir, none whatsoever.